Today I want to talk to you about a neat old photo that I found when I was messing around with some of my old photos in my library, things like that. You know how it goes. You already saw the photo in the thumbnail, and I'm going to get to it soon enough. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how taking pictures used to be for Generation X, like me. If you're a millennial or later, you missed out on this joyful experience. So this is how it went. You would have a cheap camera that your mom gave you for Christmas that didn't do anything at all but take mediocre photos. And you would buy a roll of film that had 24 shots on it. 36 if you were feeling spendy that day. Then you would tuck the camera away and forget about it, occasionally looking for it when you thought you saw something worthy of one of those precious 24 exposures. Like if you went on a day trip or you saw something cool outside. The sad thing is, since you couldn't see the photo right away, and I'm just going to assume you don't have a Polaroid because those were cool, but the film was much more expensive and the pictures just didn't look that good. So because you couldn't see the photos right away, you couldn't see the flaws. The feedback loop was way too long. You'd take your photos and you wouldn't see them for a long time. So that's why you'd have these dreams about how amazing these photos were in the camera. You had seen something really cool and you'd captured it and you knew that it was going to be stunning when it was developed. You knew that you had just captured the moment and your friends would be in awe. And then you drop the photos off at the pharmacy and you pick them up a week later because we were all broke. Who had money to spend on 1 hour processing? So you wait a week and you go back to the pharmacy and you pick up your photos, and then you quietly walk out to the parking lot, flipping through your sad photographs, wondering what you ever had seen that merited this shot. Or this beautiful shot. Or how about this one? Every sailor knows how mesmerizing the foam off the fantail is, and thousands of them were sadly disappointed how boring the static foam looks. I remember my mom saying, "That foam must be interesting because I remember your dad coming home with photos just like that." And it wasn't just poor composition that we enjoyed. Here's a beautiful photo of a harbor in Rio de Janeiro. And this one must have been an awesome band playing live. I'm certain it was the perfect shot at the time. And finally, here's a beautiful photo of my wife. Totally not in focus. These are photos that I seem to have thought were good enough to have saved after the initial shock and depression of opening that sad little envelope. The others were worse. But there were people out there who were really into photography. Occasionally you would meet a friend who had a real camera, a fancy camera bag and lenses and gizmos, and the device would be covered with switches and knobs, and it was a complete mystery to me. These guys seemed to know how to flip the dials and the knobs, and they made nicer photos. I didn't know too many guys like this because we were enlisted men in the Navy. We didn't have any money for that kind of stuff. I had a friend named Mike, although I never called him that, and he never called me Tad. We were really good fans. We were serious fans, in a phonetic term, of the progressive rock group Pink Floyd. And we listened to that music all the time. Whenever we were driving along, we would have The Dark Side of the Moon playing in a cassette deck and flip it over and play Wish You Were Here, or maybe Pop in the Wall. We always were listening to the music, and we memorized all the songs, and we had we're decorating stuff with the artwork, and he called me Pink for Pink Floyd, or he would call me Pinky. And I called him Sid for Sid Barrett, one of the founding members of the group. We even had bogus military name tags made up, the kind that go right here on your shirt. Mine said Floyd, and his said Barrett. And we stood the inspection and nobody even noticed. Have you ever had a friend that just clicked right with you? Somebody just right away you get along with, and you never have a conflict with them. You do fun things with them. You have a great time. and there's never a hint of bad blood between you. That was the way it was with Sid and me. We'd go out and do cool things together, like the time he introduced me to his model rocketry hobby, and we drove to some random school playground or whatever it was, and promptly lost all of his model rockets into the trees at the edge of the field. And there was a time that with my airbrush, I painted t-shirts that we wore, and with, of course, something about Pink Floyd on them. Here we are standing in front of one of my works in progress, and you can see he's wearing a t-shirt that had the Dark Side of the Moon emblem on it, and I can assure you that that vest I'm wearing on the back has the same thing. Sid showed up one day with a camera bag and a fancy camera, and he's telling me all about his photography hobby and how much fun he was having. He'd been into photography since high school, and he had a full kit of Pentax gear, and it was all manual. It was the kind of thing where you could take the batteries out and still take pictures all day long. I was mystified by the device, but he was clearly happy, and he was going around taking all of his photos in black and white. No, he didn't do color. We all took color photos. Our ugly little photos were all in color. Not Sid. He did black and white because it was like artsy, and they really looked good. One day he was telling me about the super neat filter that he had bought that allowed him to do trick photos. And he described its use to me. I couldn't make head or tails about what he was talking about. He told me that it was the kind of thing, the way he explained it, he said, I could take a picture of you in a car sitting next to you in the passenger seat. He came to my room that night with his photo gear and set up the camera on a tripod. He showed me the funny little filter, and it was solid black on one side and clear on the other. And he told me he was going to take a photo that had twin me's in it. And I looked at the thing and I laughed and I said, there's no way that's going to work. What about the stuff in the middle? It's all going to be messed up. There's going to be a line in the middle, or it's going to be something's going to be messed up. It's going to be all blurry. And he put the filter on. This is what the filter looked like. It really did look, but there's no way that's going to work. He positioned the filter on the one side, and I leaned against the locker, and he took a picture. Then he fiddled with the camera, he cocked the shutter, and he turned the filter the other side. Then he said, put on another shirt. So I changed my t-shirt, and I grabbed a book, and I pretended like I was reading. And then he snapped the second photo. A week later, he came by, and he handed me the photo, and that's the one you see here. I was amazed that it'd work at all. Look at this thing. It's amazing. I'll pause right now just to let you see how much we were into Pink Floyd. Not only are both of my shirts airbrushed album covers, but you look at the book in my hand, and that's about Pink Floyd, and there's even a sketch of the cover of Wish You Were Here on the back wall to the right of the sketch of the P-51 Mustang. Sid handed me another photo that he took that day. This one shows how the sausage was made. Take a look at the bedpost. You can see it's ghosted. You see, his camera was fully manual, and in order to get the double exposure, you had to press a button on the bottom to disengage the sprocket drive as you manually cocked the shutter. And just cocking the shutter alone was pretty rough treatment for a camera that you're trying to keep stock still on a tripod. So between the little button, cocking the shutter, and turning the filter, he bumped something, resulting in the double exposure of the bedpost. And you can see the rest of the photo looks just fine. There's a little vignetting in the corner, but both images of Sid are absolutely perfect. So this method works. Today, this photo would take 2 minutes to do in Photoshop. In the mid-1980s, it took 2 minutes to do the same thing in camera on real film with a completely manual camera. That's awesome. Our paths separated after nuclear power school. Sid went to Jacksonville to an aircraft carrier there, and I was still in Orlando for some time, and we would occasionally go and visit each other. It was kind of cool. He came to my house after we both got out of the Navy. He came to my house to visit, probably in the mid-90s. And here's a picture of us together. Then I lost touch with him for many years. probably about 20 years passed by, and I managed to find Sid on Facebook. And I contacted him, and we had a great conversation. We talked quite a bit, and we remembered good times. But we never really kept in touch. I'll have to send him a link to this video and see if he remembers the day that he taught me a neat photography trick. Sid, if you're out there somewhere, I miss you, friend. We had good times together. Thank you for watching.